This is episode number 28 of the Riff Tacos podcast. My name is Paul Misko. Today's guest is Kyle Medina, vocalist of Bodysnatcher, one of the heaviest and most intense bands in deathcore right now. These guys have been grinding for over a decade. I just learned about them a few years ago when From a Second Story Window got back together. I believe someone sent a picture of the band. Their drummer was wearing a From a Second Story Window shirt, and I was like, oh, who are these guys? And I was like, holy shit, they are heavy as fuck and out there crushing it. They just dropped a 10-year anniversary remix and remaster of their first EP, Abandonment. They'll be on tour this summer, kicking off with Incarceration Fest here in Ohio. And recently, they just announced there'll be direct support for Whitechapel on tour this November and December. So absolutely killing it. I'm stoked to meet Kyle and chat about what it was like growing up in the Florida metal and hardcore scene and how Bodysnatcher came together. So this is Riff Tacos with Kyle Medina. Yeah, I would like to start fresh if you kind of just want to recap that story.
Yeah, I think it was just Rich basically coming around and warming up to the idea of float face down being a thing again. Well, I mean, more so playing the show. Just let me know when you want me to. Oh, we're recording. Okay. So
we are. Yeah. No, we're good. So for everyone listening, we had a ton of issues. We finally got it sorted. You're calling yourself old, but I'm over here streaming to YouTube on accident. And
that's more awesome.
I recorded my intro, which is funny. So every time I hit record, because I do it like 3 or 4 times usually, just to freestyle and say, oh, this guest is coming on, blah, blah, blah. And so every individual intro went to YouTube as a separate live stream, and people watching me screw up and go, oh, I don't like that. Got to the next one. So yeah, so if you caught that before I deleted it, I hope you got a laugh.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I had a buddy that messaged me on Facebook, and he goes, I saw you guys streaming, and then you guys just cut out. What happened? And I was like, God damn it, that wasn't supposed to happen.
That's how did he know? That's so funny because I didn't have your name on it or anything.
Maybe it was notified. Maybe it was like a notification went off or something.
Probably. If he's subscribed to my channel, maybe he's got notifications on. I know lives always go out to everybody.
Sure. So yeah. So basically, yeah, we just spent an hour and a half troubleshooting, and we figured it out finally. But we defeated the machine. Skynet is under our foot. If Elon Musk, give me $1 billion. I defeated the AI machine. There you go. So
we won. I really appreciate you not giving up. So thank you.
Yeah, no, dude, of course, I wanted this to happen too. So I was like, God damn it, I really want to talk about this stuff. And plus, I think you're awesome. And I'm like, God damn it, now I can't fangirl about From a Second Story Window. He's gonna be like, I'm never gonna talk to this guy ever again.
No, dude, I get it. Technology's a bitch sometimes, so.
Yeah, it can sometimes kind of just throw a wrench into things. But yeah, so we I forget what I was. Oh, so we played the Canada Fest with Bodysnatcher. That was last night, but the night prior, yeah, Kyle Shope and me were pretty much both in agreement that Rich would probably never want to bring back the float thing. And basically, I guess a mutual friend of theirs had passed away recently, and I guess a promoter / friend of the band or whatever had reached out to Rich and was like, hey, what do you think about float face down playing? And I think because of the Instagram resurgence of all these kids liking float, and plus also people around our age liking the band, I think seeing it, like actually seeing people comment on it and people going, oh my gosh, I love float face down, I wish that band played a show, or I missed that band, or whatever, sharing experiences. And then that yawn video that he had put out, I think Rich saw a lot of the comments and saw people actually giving the band the flowers, and he was like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't know people gave a shit, about this band. So it was really cool. And then, we were in our band chat, and then Kyle Shope goes, a Float Face Down show on the 6th of June. And it completely took me by surprise because I thought it was just never gonna ever happen ever again. So I went, whoa, okay. And instead of like, I didn't want to like step on any toes or invite myself into any sort of situation, but I literally just said, hey, I know I did 2 or 3 songs at the last reunion show, but if Rich wants me to sing for the band, I will sing for the band. I can learn the songs. But if not, if you've got somebody else, I'm not offended. It's not my rodeo. It's essentially this is your choice. Um, I didn't hear anything about it for like 2, 3 weeks. And then I went to a mutual wedding and Kyle Shope was sitting at my table as well. And he goes, so you want to sing for Float Face Down? And I was like, yeah, dude, of course I do. So I got sent the songs. Rich got my number from Kyle and he was like, hey, Kyle gave me your number. Um, I'm super stoked you're doing this. This is super awesome. And here's these songs. We're gonna play Exidium Verum songs, and we're also gonna play Barrier Beliefs. And the problem with Barrier Beliefs songs was that Ron, before he died, and or not even before he died, but years ago, he never wrote down any of the lyrics anywhere. So Rich had to take the songs, put them in Logic and or whatever recording software he has, and he had to isolate all the vocals and boost them because we couldn't understand what he was saying. Because on that recording, his vocals, I don't know why. I guess the way he enunciated everything sounded like he had marbles in his fucking mouth. And we're like, I can't understand a word he's saying. So Rich, somehow, I don't know how he did it, pieced together all of these songs, like from Barrier Beliefs, with all the lyrics. And I was like, dude, I can't believe you were able to do this. And
Yeah, even
it,
isolated, you'd think that would be tough because like sometimes just screaming, you just can't tell. Period. Like,
dude, it's like, well, he's like, hey, give me your thoughts on this track and see what you think about, what he could possibly be saying. And I go, okay. So I check out, you know, um, whatever track, and I click on a track, and it's just the vocals, and I'm like, I have no idea how you even piece that together. That's crazy. But so we did that. And then there was one song out of the 10 that we pieced together, but I think it was like probably 85% right. The rest of it we're like, we can't understand what he's saying at all. But so we did that, and the band had practiced 3 times with George and Mike, which are the 2 different drummers that had been in the band at the time. So George playing Exidium Verum, Mike playing Barrier Beliefs, and we they practiced like 2 or 3 times, and then me and Kyle Shope flew in a couple days prior, which was last week, and we practiced a single time for 3 hours.
oh shit.
So
How are your nerves getting on stage then?
dude, I can't even, dude, it was so nerve-wracking. Like I was like, oh, I hope I don't fuck these songs up. And then also like, it's different when it's your band and when it's somebody else's
Yeah,
like child. You know what I mean? It's like their baby. So it's like I don't
especially
want
reunion
to.
show, and he had passed away, so it's like, yeah, you want to do the best you can.
Yeah, and I don't want to disrespect my friend like that. Number one. Number two, I respect the float guys too. So it's like I don't want to fuck this up and then be like, Kyle, you completely you completely fucked that up. You know what I mean? Like that's just
Yeah,
and on top of that, it's embarrassing. You don't want to just go up there and flub songs that are like other people. Not only does it mean something to them, but it means something to people that are at the show. So it's like if you flub it, you just look like an idiot.
right.
And I'm like, oh, I really don't want this to happen. So we were super nervous. Dan, the other guy that was the other guitar player, he was also extremely nervous. He was filling in from another band. He played in Abandonment, which was another New Jersey band from way back in the day. But he was doing the second guitar, and yeah, we practiced for 3 hours, and it went pretty well, better than I thought it would be. And then 2 days later, we ripped the show, and it was incredible. It was ridiculous, dude. Like, I think it was 675 paid.
Wow.
So it was at Asbury Lanes, which is like that's I guess, which I don't know because I'm not from Jersey, but like they were like, dude, I saw fucking Suicide Silence here with, uh, massive tour package back in the day, or oh, I saw Between the Buried and Me play here, and I'm like, holy shit.
Right.
So it was like that's one of those venues. And it's like, yo, this is like a 700 cap room, and Float Face Down is playing for the first time in 8 years, and
Yes.
everybody here is stoked.
That's so sick.
So it was amazing, dude. And then like on top of that, we played like the songs, like of course the songs that like the band, everybody of course knew or whatever. And it was crazy because like we would do like I did one. It was the last song we played was Without Crutches, which is like the Float Face Down song. And there's video of it, but I did the first half of like the line of that breakdown, and then the entire room, I'm saying like 700 people all shouting the second half of it. And it was like, oh, like it, like
Yeah.
you feel it in your chest. You're like, oh my God, like people actually care.
There's
And it
no
was
better
cool
feeling
because,
than that.
oh, dude, it was amazing. And I know that I'm not 100% at liberty to speak on this, but I'm going to anyway because I'm sure it's people, if they care, they're gonna be hyped. But yeah, we played, and Rich and George the night prior we had went to dinner, and Rich was like talking a little bit about it, and he was like, I'm definitely warmed up to it, and he was like, I don't want to say anything before the show, but I'm I'm open now to doing merch, like a merch store, and continuing the online presence. And I was like, you know what, man, if that makes you happy and this has left a void in your life for a long time, I think that you should do it because I mean, shit, I mean, your band wasn't a band for years, man. I'm sure that felt
Oh,
very weird.
about
Left a big
16
void in
years.
your
Yeah.
yeah, probably left a weird void in your life, you know. You're like, "Huh, I miss that." You
Yeah.
know. So
The
I
last thing we ever thought would be printing Fastwell merch in 2024, or, or whatever.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I didn't think I would ever see it ever again. I didn't even think I thought that that was not even just for Float, but I mean for any band. Like even See You Next Tuesday. Like I mean, you're probably friends with those guys too. Those are my homies, and it's
yeah.
like when I saw that band come back, I was like, no fucking way. And then Drew and well, yeah, Drew messaged me randomly, and he's like, hey, and I was like, hey man, I love your band, and he's like, hey, do you want to do vocals on this record? And I was like, what? So yeah, I talked to the guys, and we all love your vocals, and I was like, oh my God, dude, yeah. And then, like just even seeing them play in 2024 is ridiculous. I was like, I never thought I would ever see this band ever in a million years play a show ever again. It was crazy.
Yeah. They were our first
Even
choice
years ago.
for our reunion show. We were like, we got to have them on. And Nights Like These from Memphis, if you know them, like, we're just like,
Oh yeah, I remember.
friends, Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, they the last time I'd seen See Next Tuesday, I didn't get to see the show, but they played a reunion in like 2014 or 2013. They played one, and it was I think it was called I Guess It's a Fest, but it was a Michigan show. So I'm like, of course I'm not going to be up there in Detroit or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, those guys are awesome, and they're dope, and I talked to him too about it, and kind of the same conversation I had with Rich. I was like, man, if it makes you happy, then why not do it?
Yeah.
Why not? Who's it gonna hurt? You know what I mean? And like, of course, there's always gonna be the people that are shot out, blown out, booger eating lamb goat dudes. But I mean, what the fuck are they gonna do? They're just gonna comment anonymously and call you a fat old loser. But like, who cares?
Yeah.
You're gonna be like, you're just rotting in your fucking house, and your band, you don't even have a band, so fuck you. You know what I mean? So it's like, I was like, the only people that were gonna talk shit are people that were gonna talk shit 17 years ago anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Right. And it's funny, it's like, it's a bunch of anonymous accounts yelling at each other. And then, like, I stay out of the lamb goat comment section. One time I saw.
I do too.
Someone talked shit about our band, and then someone else like said, oh really, like Sean or Paul, like they called one of us out thinking we were the other anonymous account, and it's just two anonymous idiots yelling at each other, one thinking he's in the band. I'm like, that's so funny. I would never reply to someone. I don't care. Most of them are funny to me anyway, like, but yeah,
I think they're hilarious. Like they all say like ridiculous stuff. But anyways, yeah, I had that same conversation. I just was like, hey man, like, what else are you doing? You're just kind of playing guitar for fun, but if it means a lot to you, and I straight up asked him at dinner, I was like, what does this mean to you? And he's like, oh, it's my baby. I'm of 20 years. And I was like, well, then why don't you, what's a t-shirt with the logo gonna do? Is that gonna hurt somebody? It's gonna do is it's gonna make everybody that's 35 years old now to 40 years old now be like, oh my God, I can't believe they reprinted this shirt that I have a small or a medium of, you know? And then on top of that, I'm like, and they were talking at dinner, and they were just like, George was like, you guys, this is kind of like our this is a get together, and this is fucking awesome. But it's like once we're done with this, we just go on and we go on with our lives, and then you and Shope go and play in your band that's pretty sizable, and you guys play as a career. And he's like, it's bittersweet because it's like, damn, like I wish. We had that at one point, and then, it kind of died. And I'm like, no one's ever going to stop you from writing a record. And yes, somebody's passed away that sang for the band, but it's like, I think that music is a very important thing. And I think, and I'm not speaking just for me, I'm speaking for fans and other dudes in bands. And like, I think that just music is a very universally like loved thing. And I think if you're playing it, and it's special to you, and it makes you feel like, oh my God, we're having dinner, and like I'm seeing somebody I haven't seen in 10 fucking years, and we're playing songs we haven't played in 10 years, then you should do it. And I think that life is only you only live once, and if it passes you by and then 15 years from now you're like, damn, I wish we would have done one more record, or damn, I wish we would have played two more shows, you're gonna regret that for the rest of your life. And I don't think that you should do that. And they kind of were just like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. And Rich was like, well, I'm not gonna jump to any conclusions, but if I start riffing and writing some songs, maybe me and George will get together. And I was like, that's awesome. And then they just go, well, if that happens, you're stuck with us. So I hope you know what that means. And I'm like, oh yeah, duh. I'm like, of course. And I know that comes with like the politics of labels and whatever,
Yeah.
but I think that that's a really special thing too. And I'm very like blown away that they would ever think of me to carry on that torch. And like obviously my friend is no longer on this mortal plane, so it's like I would hope that that would be the best wishes of whoever. So
Yeah.
we'll see if that was the last time ever, but I'm not sure. I think it warmed him up to it a lot, and I think those guys, it meant a lot to them. And overall, I mean, I don't even give a fuck about money or whatever bullshit that it comes with. I think I'm just happy that my friends are happy playing songs that they thought people didn't give a shit about.
Yeah.
It's like special.
Hey friends, if you're enjoying the show, quick reminder to hit the subscribe button and like the episode on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, please follow the show and leave a quick rating. It really helps me out a lot. And if you know someone who'd enjoy it, please share the episode with them too. Thanks so much. All right, back to it. I was gonna say, like when you get older and you would regret not doing those things, any hesitation or like insecurity you have now, like when you get that old, those things will not matter, and that's why the regret will come. So it's like think fast forward 15, 20 years when you can't do it, and just be like, yeah, why the fuck do I care about these stupid things? Just go for it if you're feeling it. I just turned 40, and I'm like, I want to spend the next 10 years doing everything musically that I hesitated on the last 15, while the band was broken up. Did a couple projects here and there and stuff, but like, yeah, no regrets.
It's never the same as the thing that I think it's never the same as the thing that initially gave you all of that energy and all of that like passion and happiness. I feel like it's just never the same. I feel like you can start other, little things, but sometimes it's just the one that is the one that gave you that initially is the one that's always going to be like, damn, I wish we did more with that,
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about. And it's crazy to think about that, like there's bands that will never, ever, ever, ever do it again. It's crazy.
Yeah, especially if it's kind of left as like an open-ended thing where you didn't close it out how you wanted, which is kind of like what happened with us. So we're like, we can come back and make some music and play shows again and end it how we like. But it's important, I think.
Exactly, dude.
as you get older, people want to say like, "Oh, just being in a band, you have kids or this or that or more responsibilities." It's like it doesn't get any less important to you. It's just it takes a back seat to other things, of course, but like you got to
Of
find a way
course,
to
and everybody,
have an outlet.
yeah, of course, and everybody, of course, understands that like everybody's got a life, and you everybody gets that, and it's like you can't like you said, like it's like you can't do this, you know, balls to the wall, fucking heavy touring forever and ever and ever, but that doesn't mean you can't fucking go and play a show every once in a while and all these people come out that it was also important to, you know? And that's
Exactly.
kind of how my stance on it is. And that's not just because I wanted more float face down shirts, which I did, but that's not the only reason why. It was fucking awesome. It was very it was surreal. It's weird because like um I'm somebody that gets nervous still even with my band. Like we'll play in front of fucking 200 people at a routing show, or we'll play in front of 2,000 people at a show supporting somebody, and I'm nervous the same way every time. And even if we're playing in front of 5 people, when we're in our practice unit and it's just us four, I'm fucking freaking out. So it's like,
Yeah.
doing that and playing my friends' songs that has passed on, and then playing with my other friends who I also love and respect, playing their songs was so nerve-wracking. And dude, it's like we're playing. I don't know if you know the guys, but like it was like not only was it like old faces of friends that I knew, but it was like other bands that I respect and love.
Mhm.
So it's like, I look to my left or my right before we start playing, and it's all of your spent cold standing right there. And I'm like, fuck, dude. It's like
Yeah.
Coots and fucking Frank are both like smiling and stoked, but I'm like, God damn, dude, like they're right there. And then Ron's sister and her husband are right there. And I'm like, fuck, like this is her brother's
Yeah.
band.
Like I had three
You
at
know what
my
I mean? And
practice.
she Yeah, dude. Oh my God, I was freaking out. But it was awesome because we're on song 4. Just played 2 Vidium Verum and 2 Barrier Beliefs. And I out loud, I look at the drum riser, I put my mic down, and I start drinking water, and I go, "We're fucking doing it." And Mike behind the drums goes, "We're doing it." And even Kyle Shope is like, "We're fucking doing it." And it was cool because we all kind of like, it wasn't even a planned thing. We all just were kind of like out loud, like you can't help it. You're just like, this is fucking happening.
Yeah.
And
Enjoying
it's
the
really cool
moment.
because, like, yeah, it was like the energy was just crazy. And then it's like, I am a little bit more aware of what's going on when I'm doing vocals, and we're playing, and I'm doing vocals, and I'm looking around, and the show's being filmed, but I'm looking around, and I can see Kyle show up, and I can see Dan, and they're smiling ear to ear the whole time. And I looked over at George while we're playing the barrier belief stuff, and he's like completely lit up, smiling. And the one I really, really, really was like, I hope he's having a good time, because if he's not, this is never happening again, is Rich. And we're playing, and I look over, and he's playing guitar, and he's looking at his guitar, like riffing, and he's got a giant smile on his face too. And I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah.
awesome. So,
Hell yeah.
I don't mean to yap too much about the show, but closing it out, basically, we finished, and Rich was just like, "Hey, so this might not be the last of this, so we'll see how it goes." And I'm like, "I'm all in." And Kyle Shep was like, "I'm all in as long as it doesn't conflict with our other band," and super into it. So we'll see how that goes. But um,
Hell yeah, dude.
I I guess the big lesson, I guess, for anybody that's listening, and or you know, I'm sure Paul said it himself, is like, if you are hesitant on playing music again, if you haven't done it in a long time, and you are, whether it's second guessing, or you feel like maybe people don't give a fuck or whatever, it doesn't matter if your band was big or small or whatever. I think you should do it, because
Yeah, do it for you.
that's exactly, do it for you, but also, like, you're gonna regret it 20 years from now, or 10 years from now, or whatever the fuck case it might be, because like realistically, who's it fucking hurting? What else are you gonna be doing? You know what I mean? It's something it's a beautiful thing, and I think it shouldn't be squandered. So, but we played that flow show, and I had a hour and a half of sleep in between that, and then we flew straight to Canada, and then played, I think it was 45 minutes Bodysnatcher songs.
Holy shit.
And
You had to be
that was
fucking
fucking
dead, dude.
awesome. Dude, it was literally, I was delirious. And I'm like, we got on the plane. It was a poetic. It was so poetic, just or not poetic justice, but it was like poetic. Like it was just funny. Like I'm not a fan of flying. I don't think anybody really is because it kind of makes you uncomfortable. It's like a very unnatural thing. You're like in the sky in a tube. Like us as human beings, I don't think are meant to be 40,000, feet in the sky.
No, it's just awkward. Yeah, and just like, and there's people smell like shit, or there's a crying baby next to you, or God knows what.
Yeah.
It's always, it's never like, I really loved that flight today.
Oh yeah, it was so fun. I really loved being on it for 3 hours. And then the turbulence were so fun. Yeah, no, so I'm like, oh, I have an hour and a half of sleep, and we get on this plane, and it's like the smallest fucking plane you've ever seen. And I'm like, oh God, no. Please no. And then get on the flight, and the captain's like, hey, so it's only a 55-minute long flight. Hopefully it'll be enjoyable. It's going to be a bit bumpy. And I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, I'm no sleep. And then I'm like, also, I'm going to be, you know, gripping the sides of the, like a cat. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, man. So,
Yeah. Do you get
but we
scared?
may obviously make, I had a little bit. So I have been flying on planes like since I was little, but I kind of developed like a phobia of sorts like a couple years ago because we did a Europe flight. We went to Europe. We were supporting Carnifex and Chelsea Grin. And this was, I think, the first like full scale Europe tour we did. Like we had done like a UK thing with Ingested, but this was our first like, okay, we're 4 weeks in Europe. So we had just done Hatebreed, 20 Years of Perseverance. We just did that tour in the US. And then I think we had 2 or 3 days home and went straight to Europe. So we go to Europe, and we're like 5 or 6 hours in. And over the intercom, they're like, hey, uh, apologies before this starts happening, but the next hour is going to be severe. Not strong, not bad, severe.
I don't want to hear that word over the intercom, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I go, we're over the ocean and you're telling me it's going to be severe? And I'm like, oh God, what does that mean? So for the net, and this is right after we got served dinner. So I'm holding onto a fucking tray of half-eaten food and a drink like this.
Yeah.
And it is the most severe jerking and bad like plane motions I've ever been on. And I was like, oh my God, this is so bad. And it was nonstop for an hour. And I don't know
Over the
what I
ocean
did,
too.
but
That's like no good.
yeah, so I don't know what exactly happened, but it rewired my brain in a certain way to where I kind of just like, I don't know what even happened, dude, because before I was totally fine with it. And um, my wife is from Ohio, so she's from like Akron, Cleveland area.
Oh,
So that's kind of how I know like that's how I know like some of the See You Next Tuesday guys, and then I know like obviously I know if you remember that band Cholera from back in the day.
yeah.
Um, so I that's how I kind of know those guys. Not only has my band kind of toured through that area before, but like I've known those guys through mutual friends and like whatever. And my wife is from there, so it's like I know those guys. Salt the Wound. I'm sure you remember that band too.
Hmm.
I was flying back and forth pretty frequently while me and her were in the dating stage, because she used to live there, and now obviously we're married, we live here, but so I flew a million times in recent times, and I was like, oh, it doesn't bother me. And then after that flight, for whatever reason, it just like rewired my brain entirely. And I have this huge phobia of like, oh my God, we're gonna fucking die, which is completely unrealistic, but you know what I mean. And so now whenever I'm on a plane, I've learned to kind of handle it better because we've done Europe 2 more times since then, and we've done Australia, and we've done all like basically shit to where I literally have to do it. So
Yeah.
now I'm at the point of where I can handle it a lot better. But there was a time for like the past 2 years, 3 years, where like I just would get so like it just through the roof anxiety. I'm like, fuck, I'm freaking out and I can't help it. But I think I've got a little bit under control now.
Yeah.
But so we played that Canada show and it was fucking awesome. I saw somebody I hadn't seen in a very long time and I had no idea he was coming. And he was like, "Oh yeah, Chris, guest listed me," and I was like, "Oh my god, I haven't seen you in 4 or 5 years. You might, I don't know if you might know him. Maybe his name is Jeff Durfee. He goes by Durfee. He used to play in Abacab. He also used to play in Suffocate. He also used to play in Murder Death Kill. So he's been like every awesome band.
I don't recognize his name,
Like,
but yeah, okay.
if you saw him, you'd be like, "Oh, I've seen that guy around." Because I think he might have done a little bit with For the Fallen Dreams, but I'm not sure. If Durfee, I'm sorry if you watched this. I'm sorry if you fucked that up. But I do know he did a bunch of bands. But he was driving for Despised Icon for a little bit. Like he was driving like the bandwagon stuff, and he does that for like a living now. But I had seen him, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I haven't seen you in forever." But um, it went awesome, and now I'm home, and I slept all day because I had no sleep. But other than that, I mean, that's an end to the giant long story that I just had. But yes, that is what I've been up to. We did the Bodysnatcher show, did the Float Face Down reunion, and now we're here.
Well, I appreciate you doing this after all of that and then putting up with all of our technical issues. Because
Yeah.
you still have to be exhausted. So thank you again.
Dude, yeah, I wouldn't have missed this for anything. Like I remember you DM'd me and I was like, I'm pretty sure I know who this is. And I was like, I went back and read it and I was like, oh my God, it's from a second story window guy. Of course I'll do this. And I think you either had Drew on here or you had the guy from Robinson, I want to say, something like that. And I was like, whoa, yeah, I want to do this.
Yeah, I was in Robinson too. That was my band before from Second Story Window. So I was like, I'm gonna start with all
Oh,
of my
fuck, I didn't even know that.
yeah. I didn't join Fastwood till '06. So that
Holy
was
shit.
Robinson was like my first band. So I've been having like all the guys from both of them on here, and then like started going out of like, okay, who do I know that would say yes to a new podcast right away? And then just kind of reaching out to like new people here and there, and yeah, it's been great. I just started it mid super, buddy.
Yeah, I've seen like the clips on Instagram and stuff, just not even from like just the page itself, but I see it from like our mutual friends that we all know, and they're like, "Oh, I went on here," and I'm like, "Holy shit, this is awesome!" And then it's funny, like, how small the world is. That's very strange, dude. Like,
It is.
obviously,
Everybody
I know all
knows each
this.
other.
The oh yeah, dude, it's so weird, and even outside of music, it's crazy. Like, um, I obviously I know the See You Next Tuesday guys, but it was so funny because I was getting tattooed. One of the dudes that was tattooing me, he actually did this tattoo on my face. It's like my band's B. And he was tattooing, this is years ago. And he's like, "Hey, so he's like, you know, we have some like mutual friends or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, like who's our mutual friend?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I had no idea my buddy played," and it wasn't Drew, it was the other guitar player. He's like, "I had no idea my buddy played in See You Next Tuesday, and then also Fox, the singer. I met him at a tattoo convention fucking 10 years ago." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" So that was like a completely not even the same sort. Like we weren't even talking about music at all. He was just like, "Oh, like I think I wore a T-shirt or something." He's like, "Oh, you know that band?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, the singer's a really good tattoo artist. I know him from like 10 years ago." And the guitar player is plays in Mutilatred. And I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "How the fuck did you make this?" Like, it's weird. And then I went to Thanksgiving with my wife at her family's house or whatever, and her uncle Ian, I don't know if you know Ian, I don't remember what his last name is because I don't think it's the same last name because obviously he's married to my now aunt Megan. But so Ian, I think I want to say it was like a similar shirt. It was either from Second Story Window. No, it was another See You Next Tuesday shirt. I just happened to be wearing one on Thanksgiving. And he's like, "Oh, you like that band?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And he's like, "Yeah." It's like, yeah, I played some shows with that band back in the day, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And I think Ian's like maybe 42, maybe 40. And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, that band's cool, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Yeah, you play in a band, don't you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I play in a grind band." And I was like, I had no idea. Like I knew he was into music, but he's like, yeah, I play in a grind band and I do this. And I was like, what the fuck? And then he goes, yeah, actually, because he's from Columbus. So he's like, yeah, so yeah, do you know from a second story window, right? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I like know Sean. Like I was at Sean's house last week. And I was like, what? Whoa, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, you know Sean? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I don't know that guy, but that's awesome. And then like 2 weeks later, Sean randomly messaged me and he's like, what the fuck? You know Ian? I was like, yeah, it's my uncle-in-law. He's like, holy shit, I've known him since 2006. And I was like, all
Wow.
right, this is getting weird, dude. What the hell? So now me and Sean, I'm like, dude, I'm like, whenever I'm up there, we got to hang out with Ian so that it's just cool. It's so strange, man. It's so weird how life is it's like interconnected. It's weird, man. For real.
Yeah,
It is weird.
I've had that at like just like random places to go to bars or someone knows somebody, then it's like, oh, we ended up like we're from the same town. There was like three people that are from my hometown, like somewhere in the same place that all weren't there together in like Texas once. It was like I'm like, how the fuck is this possible?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like the weird simulation of life is like it just does that, and then you're like, all right, this is too much of a coincidence. This is strange.
Yeah. The older I get, the more I'm like, this is definitely a simulation. There's too many signs.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, nothing's real, and I'm gonna somehow put it out into the universe that I'm gonna win the lottery, and maybe this simulation will fucking pick me. Who knows?
There you go.
Probably not though.
I saw on your Instagram, so you guys announced your Whitechapel tour this November, December, right? And you posted a picture of you,
Oh yeah, dude.
13 years old, the day you announced it, wearing a Whitechapel shirt. So it's like this full circle fucking moment. Like, and then you said, if I could go back and like tell him this was happening, like you'd explode. Like, what would you tell 13-year-old you?
Dude. I would say, hey, dude, I know it's really weird that you like have this weird thing where you want to do metal vocals, but you should definitely continue doing it because it's gonna work out for you somehow. It's so weird. I never thought it would work out that way, man. Like, I remember Whitechapel was one of the first bands I discovered in like eighth grade. I think that picture's ninth grade, but so that was probably 2009. 2009. I graduated early, so I graduated in like the beginning of 2000, fuck, 2012, I think is when I did, because I dropped out early. I dropped out a year early. And it's funny enough, I dropped out a year early to start a band, which is what became Bodysnatcher.
Oh, no shit. So that's basically your first band.
And yeah, so I was 17 when we started the band, and when that first EP, we had to wait like eight months to put out that first EP. But when I recorded the vocals, I was 17 years old,
Oh, no shit.
and so yeah, so I it's just so weird, man, because it's weird how like we were just saying, like life is a simulation. It's very strange, like how shit coinc coinc coincidentally happens like that, it's like you never I don't know, you just never think about it. Like it's when you actually sit down and you lay everything out on the table and you're like, what the fuck, this is so weird, man. Like
Right.
um yeah, like I would be like, dude, like you're gonna play with Whitechapel at some point, you're gonna tour with that band. Same thing with like bands like Amur. I remember I was listening to Amur, and that was my first girlfriend ever, like my first serious relationship in high school. That girl showed me her favorite band, and it was Amur. And then fast forward 15 years later, and the dude's at my wedding. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
what the fucking shit is this? It's just so strange, man. It's weird. And then fast forward 15 years later, and I'm on this podcast talking to you, and you play in a band that I listened to in fucking eighth grade and ninth grade.
That's crazy, dude. How old are you? You're 30?
I'm
29?
29. I'll be 30 in what is it, like August, June, July. So I'll be 30 in like 5 months, 4 months.
Okay, so yeah, we're about 10 years difference. That's great. Yeah, I graduated in 2003. and then was on tour
Yep.
quickly after that. Like we started doing like weekend warrior shit, but eventually got out there and did like full US tours.
Sure.
That then we're booking through MySpace, like we were talking about, I think before we restarted, but like, yeah, that's all we had then. So it was like just filling in the dates how we could, like meeting people. And you don't know if it's like a real person that's like, yeah, come play at my house if you can't get a venue that day or something. And we're just like, sure, never know where you end up. So it was fucking Wild West then. So,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
but yeah, we were
I
kind of the
remember.
same age, 17, 16 when we started. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I remember even shows when I was a teen. It was like there was no rules at all.
Yeah.
And that was like the tail end of that. Like I feel like once MySpace kind of like finally like phased out in like 2012ish,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I think there was this big cultural shift within the scene. But it was like going to shows in 2008 was like a complete lawless land. I feel like it was so different.
Yeah. What
Um,
was I gonna? Oh, so when you guys started when you were 17, right? You said. So how long were you doing vocals
yeah.
before that? Because your voice even then was fucking ridiculous.
I probably started. Mm, so I was 17, so I probably started maybe 2 years prior, like around the age of like 15-ish or 14-ish, maybe. So maybe like 3 years prior. I think what ended up happening. Okay, so this is interesting. So like it's another case of crazy, weird, wild shit, like life shit happening. So the first local show I went to that was like because I had no idea that there was like a local scene when I was like super, super young. And in middle school, I had a buddy that listened to metalcore music as well. And at the time, it was like scene music, whatever you want to call it, like the scene metalcore stuff. And I had no idea that there was like deathcore and like heavier shit until I was exposed to like local shows. And so the first like local band that I went and saw, this is also a blast from the past. I'm sure if anybody's watching this and they're like a fan of that genre. Um, there was a band that was a local I think they were from Titusville. And if Rob watches this, I'm sorry, Rob. I was just told you guys were always from Titusville, but there was a band from my area that was always playing, and they were a touring band. They were like the hometown hero sort of band. They were on Stillborn, which was Jamie Josta's label. And in middle school, I had a friend that his older brother played in a deathcore band. And so he was like, hey, you should check out these local shows because they're cool and blah blah. And I was like, okay, cool. And I had no idea that there was like a local scene for that. I thought it was just like all these like as such, like what a child would believe is that like every band is just massive, you know?
I thought too. Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, oh, like I can't believe these bands are all massive and there's like a million of them. So anyway, so the first local show that I went to was a band from our area that was at the time hometown heroes. They were called Catalepsy, and they were like a Rose Funeral-esque sort of band. And it was Catalepsy. I want to say Dr. Acula was on the show,
Okay.
and I want to say it was also I want to say it was either it was just those two. I want to say it was Dr. Acula Catalepsy, and I had never seen karate moshing at all, like hardcore dancing, never seen breakdowns live, and it just completely like I said, like rewired my brains. I was just like, whoa, what the fuck? This is crazy. And then I saw a bigger band, which I saw a Day to Remember at the time, which they played at the House of Blues in Orlando. And that was like the biggest thing I'd ever seen. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. It was August Burns Red, A Day to Remember, Silverstein,
Wow.
and I couldn't tell you who else was on it, but it was a huge show. It was like 2,000 cap room, and I was like, oh my God, this is what being a rock star is. And that was in 2009, I think. But I think around that time is when I started being like, yo, like this is crazy. And what got me inspired to try and do that is because I saw kids that were around my age that were like, you know, if not around my age, like maybe 2 years older than me, like 17, 18, and they were playing in deathcore bands. And I was like, yo, like, what? There's a way to do this? Like, I was just completely unaware that like a normal person could do this. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy. So um,
Like, oh, you can just do
I kind of like, yeah, I just completely taught myself. And I remember my friend Justin, who I still speak to today. And when he saw the Whitechapel announcement, he was like, oh my God, dude, you did it. But he was like the first person that was like, dude, you should try and do this. Cause he was a senior and I was like a freshman. And he was like, dude, you should do this. This is sick. And he introduced me to like Chapel and Despised Icon and Winds of Plague and Impending Doom and all those like big bands at the time.
that.
And he had introduced me to those. He's like, dude, you should do this. And I was like, maybe. And I remember my buddy on the bus, who I also speak to today to this day. His name's Dylan. And I remember the second day of uh, high school, I was like, oh, these guys kind of look like they're like metal dudes. Like they kind of look like they listen to the same music. Because like obviously, whenever you're in a new surrounding, you kind of look for people to kind of like gravitate towards to make it not awkward. You know, you're like, oh, I gotta
Right.
find like my people or whatever, right? So I remember in ninth grade, the second day of school, I was like, okay, these two dudes are riding my bus and they both have 2-inch plugs. So I think those are like dudes I might get along with. And I remember my first introduction was like, they were both wearing band shirts of bands that I had never seen. And both of them were like unreadable logos. And I was like, all right, you gotta introduce me to what this is. Like I know what Catalepsy is because that's a local band. I know what, this other band is, but like what are these bands? And I remember I talked to this kid who became one of my lifelong friends. His name's Dylan. And I was like, yo, what are you listening to? Like straight up, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's this. And I'm like, can I hear it? And I remember he gave me an earbud and he showed me the underground bands, like the bands that were like not playing the House of Blues. These are the bands like that were playing the small dive bars and like the bands where you know what I mean. So I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, what like so there's a local scene that we have, but then all these other bands are like from all over the place." You know what I mean? I was like so naive about it, but I remember he showed me like we Are the End and See You Next Tuesday and Cholera and Salt the Wound and Float Face Down and Jerome and all these just bands from back in the day. Misericordium from A Second Story Window. Um, all these crazy old throwback bands now that I'm like, oh my God, throwback. But at the time they were new.
Yeah.
So it's like, um, I became obsessed with it and I became obsessed with wanting to find new bands. And I was like, oh, I'm going to try and do these vocals and, whatever. And I remember my friend Justin, I was like, hey, can I like show you what I sound like? Cause I've like tried to take your advice and like try to sound like these people. And I like showed him and he was like, dude, that's crazy. And I was like, really? And he played in a band he played like in a metalcore band, but he's like, dude, definitely you should find people to try and find a band and play a band with. And I was like, yeah. So I went through high school and then in my junior year, I remember these guys hit me up on Facebook. It was like I got a random message from this guy, Ben, and he was like, hey, my name is Ben. I live in Vieira. He's like, I just was playing in a pop punk band. I'm a year or two older than you, but my band's breaking up and we want to play in a breakdown band. And I was like, fuck yeah. And he's like, my friend said that you know how to do vocals. It's a mutual friend, and it's between you and this kid from Orlando. But obviously, we're like high school kids with a car, and we don't want to drive to Orlando all the time. So like, you're
Yeah.
probably the best bet. So yeah, okay, sure. And it was so funny because like as kids, you don't know how to write fucking songs. You're just like, how the fuck do we write songs? How does this happen? So we just like threw a bunch of breakdowns and like parts that we thought were cool together, and then recorded vocals, and then it was so weird because it was like I wanted to do some things like as far as like local band stuff before Bodysnatcher. and it kind of like, we played like a show once or a show here and then it was done, or we would record a song and then it would be done. It wouldn't last, like the ecosystem wouldn't allow it to last longer than that. And it's like you're so young and it's like nobody's serious. But we did the Body Snatcher thing, and it's like I remember we recorded with this dude, and he was filling in for King Conquer at the time because King Conquer was still like a big Florida band at the time. And I remember they were all like, yo, this band's heavy. They're just fucking kids and they're playing heavy music. And I was like, I was over the moon because I'm like, oh my God, these are guys I've listened to on my iPod for, you know, years. And these guys are saying my band's heavy. And then like, I remember we finally put out the first song from the EP, and I remember it's like we had no idea how music promotion worked, knew absolutely nothing about making music. We literally just were like, okay, we're gonna put this song out. And we put the song out at like 10 o'clock on YouTube, and I think at the time it was like I don't know if Spotify was even a thing in like 2014. I'm not
I have no
sure. I feel
idea.
like it
I don't know
was
when they
not,
started.
but it was like yeah, it was like definitely iTunes and like, the streaming services at the time. We did like uh what is it, DistroKid and like CD Baby and whatever. But we
Yeah.
did it, and I remember at the time we spent all night doing it because we were all like completely just had no idea how to do it at all. And we set it up, and then we went to bed. It was like we did it and it was set to release at like midnight, right? So we went to bed, and then I wake up the next day, and I had no obligations to school because I'd already dropped out. I dropped out like 2 months prior. And then we recorded the EP and then 6 months later put it out. So I was already out of school. I finished adult ed and I was done. So we put out the song, and I wake up and the next day I'm on Facebook and I'm seeing all these bands that I listened to when when I was still a teenager, because I was still a teenager, and I look at these bands are sharing it. It's like King Conquer shared this song, and this band of Moralist, we had the singer at the time, he did a guest vocal spot, and Dealey Plaza and all these other Florida bands that I had only known through listening to them through music
Hmm.
and seeing them at shows, because we were not playing shows yet. We were like so in the infancy that we weren't playing shows yet. And I'm seeing all these bands that I had seen play shows be like, yo, this is the new Florida band. This band's heavy as shit. And I'm
Wow.
like, yo, what the fuck? And then like even bands that I listened to through the internet, like, other bands in other countries and other bands in other states. It just like I don't know what happened. I think what happened was like we went through, I want to say at the time we went through either total deathcore or it was, I forget which one it went through, but we paid a promotion company to like, we're like, hey, we'll give you $25. That's all we have if you can like put our video out, and they like did it or whatever. And then it was just like it was ridiculous. Like we woke up and it had like, you know, I don't know, it had like some crazy number for such a small band, like out of nowhere. It had like 10,000 views in like 9 hours. And I was like, what the fuck is
Wow.
happening? And we were like, okay, I guess we're doing this. And then 6 months later we were touring.
Holy shit, dude. You
And
have the
it
same
was
exact like
yeah.
origin story as Post Malone. He dropped
Wait,
White
what?
Iverson. He dropped White Iverson, and overnight all of his favorite rappers started sharing it. And that's how he
That's
blew up.
crazy, dude. It's so weird. And,
Yeah.
and, and it's like not even that, man, but it's like we were saying how like the world is kind of small, and how it's like it's always stuff happens that you aren't expecting, like mutual people will be aware of you or your peers will be aware of you. And I remember like um we would do shows and we'd be touring, and this is even years into the band, but we would be touring, and we would play like um we would play like a festival or something, and there'd be like massive bands on it, and we'd be playing, and I'd see like people from those bands watching our band, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
what is happening?
That's
And
surreal.
we didn't grab the big like actually really start getting bigger and bigger until we had a big lineup change, and the original guys all kind of left. They exited the band, and we recorded still in the same area. Like we recorded in like South Florida, and Chris from King Conquer had stopped doing King Conquer, and he was recording bands, and he had produced the band since like the first like full length, I think. And he was like, yeah. And I remember me and Frankie, the guitar player at the time, we went over to record a song because it kind of like, as much as you want it to be private, that, people might leave the band, it kind of like ended up, people were like, oh, this band's done. 3 members just left. And it was like, no, no, band's going to still go. So what we wanted to do is we were wanting to record a song so that we could basically shut all those people up, and they would be like, okay, the band's still a band. So we went and recorded like a week, not even a week. It was like 2 days after everybody left, and Chris was recording us, and we put down this track. And one second, my wife is like, "What are you doing?" And I'm gonna just let her know so that she doesn't FaceTime me, and then it fuck this up.
So you guys had the lineup change. You recorded. I wanted to ask you though, going back again, like what drew you personally to heavy music, and did you always know you wanted to do vocals right away, or did you try any other instruments first, or you just like, boom, I know this is what I should do?
To answer very easily and without yapping too much, yes, I kind of was like, well, I don't want to learn. Like, it's very lazy teenager of me, but I was like, I don't want to learn a fucking instrument. That's too hard. So I was like, I'm not gonna do that. And then I was like, all right, well, can I shout? And I'm already a kind of loud person anyway. Naturally, when I speak, I have like ADHD, and I'm like kind of a loud guy anyway. And I was like, oh, I can do vocals. All right, we're doing that. No guitar, no drums, but I did kind of know a basic understanding of guitar, but it wasn't enough to be like anything significant where I'm like, oh, this is a realistic thing. It was definitely not like that. It was definitely like, yeah,
I
that's
just lost your video. There we go.
oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I was putting on do not disturb just in case somebody calls me and it goes, oh, whoops, sorry, and it fucks the whole thing up. But
Okay.
yeah, so I kind of already knew I wanted to do the vocal thing. And then when my friends were kind of like, yeah, you don't sound like shit, it was like, okay, cool. Like, that's more of a reason for me to do that. And as far as the heavy music, it was weird. I grew up listening to not heavier music, but I was always drawn to like alternative music. And my dad kind of was listening to that sort of music, like listening to like early hardcore bands like Hatebreed and Madball and Agnostic Front and Sworn Enemy and Scarhead and all that stuff. So there was kind of already like a connection there where it was like, hey, like my son is kind of growing up and like maybe he'll like alternative music. So I kind of was like around it already. And as I got into like sixth grade, seventh grade was when I started making friends that were like into music, and they were all listening to like the scene sort of metalcore, because around that time like the mallcore era was like popping. So it was like Bleeding Through and what was the fucking band? They had a shirt. This is so funny. I bought a boot of it recently. Sorry guys, if any of you happen to know Paul and you're listening, but it's the shirt. It has brass knuckles on it, and it says, "Fuck." What does it say? It's like ridiculous. It says, "Fighting, fashion, good hair, and breakdowns," or some shit like that. And I think
yes. Is that 18 Visions?
I think it was 18 Visions. Or it might have been From Autumn to is either that or it was From Autumn to Ashes, but it was a super old one. And I remember I just was into those bands, and I kind of started listening to bands like Devil Wears Prada, which they were humongous at the time. It was like them, Prada, Attack Attack, all those like mallcore bands at the time. This was like probably 07, 08. And then I was drawn to those because those had breakdowns. And I liked the older head music, but for whatever reason in my head I was like, that's grandpa music.
Yeah.
So I like didn't want to listen to like those bands, even though they were like technically, I mean, they're all awesome bands, and I love those bands now. But as a kid, I was like, oh, well, those are all old guys and they're in camo shorts and I don't want to listen to that. I want to listen to the dudes that kind of look like me and they're only 20 and they're only 17 and they're all playing breakdowns and like whatever. And then I remember in high school, like I said, I was saying I met Dylan and Justin and all these people that were like my friend group there, and they were all local show friends as well. But they kind of turned me on to like heavier music, and that's what grabbed me because I was listening to these bands because I was like, oh, they have breakdowns. But then I would discover more bands that were heavier. I'd be like, oh, this band's got even heavier breakdowns, or this band's even heavier. So that's when like ninth grade was when I discovered all those like underground deathcore bands, and then I started listening to like the crazy bands like See You Next Tuesday, Your Band, uh Destroyer, Robinson, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, this is like crazy maniac music, but it also has like super heavy breakdowns. And like
Yeah.
I was just drawn to stuff like that. And I think with in tandem of doing the vocals and then especially when I saw these bands play in person, I was like, oh, I want to do that 100%. I want to do that myself. And so
The live show, the
it's happened.
chaos, like really, when you get there, that energy is just like, it's addicting. And
Oh
especially
yeah.
you should get on stage and do it. And you're engaging with people who are singing and moshing. And like, it's a
Oh yeah.
small environment. Back to what you said earlier about like being nervous at a small show or a big show. Like,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
more nervous at small shows where there's like 100, 200 people there in a tiny venue. It's so much more intimate. You're right up next to them. They can see everything you do, every little like mistake you make. So like when you're
Everybody's
on a big
judging you.
stage, yeah, when you're on a big stage, you feel so much more disconnected. I'm less nervous if there's like
Oh yeah.
500 or 1,000, like Furnace Fest. I was the least nervous of this like reunion run we've done, and that was the biggest show we played. But
It
I
was
don't know, just
awesome.
like people being right up in your face or something like that. I do prefer those shows, but I'm definitely more nervous.
Oh yeah, I think it's just you, like you said, it's kind of like there's people that can, not that anybody's judging you because I feel like everybody's just kind of super into their own thing anyway when you're playing, but
Yeah.
it makes you feel like everybody's looking at you and they're like, oh, you're messing up or you're doing this or doing that. So it's like I definitely I level with you on that. Like and it's very strange because it's like I went so from you
Oh,
know and not to say that I'm not still so like in love with it because I am. I'm so in love with it. Um, just the whole thing, playing shows, being in a band, everything. It's just so. I think the most rewarding thing for me is obviously everybody needs to make money to pay their bills and everything, but I think it's more so like the stuff that's I'm gonna carry with forever. It means the most to me, like stuff like this, or like singing in place of somebody that's no longer here, or having the respect of my peers means more to me than anything. And I think that's just so crazy to me that that's something reachable in your life. I didn't think that that was reachable in my life, if that makes sense.
yeah. I think money is obviously necessary and it's nice, but like that's not what you're
Sure.
thinking about when you're old and like looking back at your life. It's all the like the
Oh
immediate
yeah,
things. And
of
I
course.
I wouldn't be doing this if our band didn't get back together because I felt disconnected from the scene and everybody I haven't talked to in like over
Hmm.
a decade. So doing that, like it was like, oh, I really love podcasts. It's like mostly what I consume, like when I'm just laying
Yeah.
around or whatever. There's always a podcast on, whether it's on the TV or my phone. And I'm like, I would like to contribute to that in my own way.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let me just start asking friends if they want to bullshit for 2 hours and see what happens. And then here we
Oh,
are.
of
And
course.
it's been great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I it's even I think what even surprises you the most is when it's like people that you don't expect to know who you are, know exactly
Yeah.
who you are. And they know exactly what you're doing and they know exactly who your band is and everything. Like when I saw this message in my DMs and you're like, "Hey man, I do this podcast and blah blah, blah and I also play in this band." And I was like, I know exactly who you are, and it's crazy to me that you know who I am. You know what I mean? I view myself, I don't everybody's always like, Kyle, like you don't realize you're in this like pretty massive band. And I'm like, I don't see it that way though. You
Yeah.
know what I
You're
mean?
like 10,
I think
you're
of
in
myself as just a guy.
you're like 10 times bigger than we ever were. And you were like, I'll try not to geek out when I come on. I was like, dude, like, yeah, you're in this massive band that's but yeah, you're right though. That is cool. And like, when you say that to me, it's like, oh, that's nice to like feel and know that like, oh, what we did so long ago means something to people still to this day.
Yeah, dude. I remember I went to go see you next Tuesday, and Drew was like, I have something for you. And I was like, what is it? And he's like, you'll see. And I'm like, okay. And I remember when I did the spot for them, I called our manager, which I'm sure you know Scott, but Scott Lee manages us. And I called Scott and I was like, hey, I'll see you next Tuesday is getting back together. And I know that I'm supposed to ask for permission if I'm ever doing guest spots or I got to get it cleared with the label or whatever. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I'm just doing it. I'm just letting you know it's going to happen. Like, I'm not saying no, I'm doing it. And he goes, okay, fair enough. He goes, you really want to do it? I was like, yes, I want to do it 1,000,000%. He's like, okay. And then come to find out they're on Good Fight again. He's like, oh yeah, no, you're 100% good. But, yeah, I remember I went to that show and Drew's like, I have something for you. And I'm like, oh my God, what is it? And he handed me a vinyl and he's like, yeah, this is for you. And it was I guess it was like a friends and family sort of thing for them. And it was the new record that I was on. And I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna do it. And they're like, what? And I'm like, you guys all have to sign this. And they were laughing at me because they're like, oh my God, this is so funny. And I'm like, please sign it. All of you, please sign it. And then I bought a poster and I was like, can you guys sign it? And they were like, Kyle, come on. And I'm like, please, I'm sorry. But yeah, no, that was another surreal thing is like, I want to tell you that this is special because, I just want to tell you this as well because you play in a band that's very formative for a lot of people, not only just me, but like it is so fucking cool to see you guys play and, not only just you, but see you next Tuesday or the Red Chord or any of these bands from like my teenage years playing is like the coolest fucking thing ever. Because like when you're a kid, yeah, you like go and see these bands and like it's important to you, but it's like when you're a fully grown adult man and you're seeing this now, you're like really you can really actually like appreciate it. You know what I mean? You're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm seeing this in person. So it's just so crazy to me. And I think it's fucking awesome that you guys are playing shows again. And I'm very like I hope that I can see it here soon. I was gonna fly to the See You Next Tuesday from a second story window. I forget who else is on the show. It was like
The Chicago one.
might have been I think it was that one because I hit up Sean and I was like, I might come to this show. And then I think are you guys still doing it or
No, we had to cancel, just too much shit going on with everybody this summer.
I
So
feel it.
like, yeah, like we're on like a show hiatus right now. We have nothing else booked. So it was just like it was a
Mm.
bummer. I really wanted to do it, but like Rob goes to Canada for like all of July and then everyone's got vacations. I'm the only one without kids, so it's difficult to be old part-timers.
Yeah, no, I get it. But it's like, it's so cool because like I feel like you guys play a show and especially something like Furnace Fest, which is insanely badass. And you play that, and all these people that are like not only around my age, but people around your age that see it on the schedule and they're like, oh my God, no fucking way. It's like it's something you can't miss. You can't miss it. Like it's you almost feel like you're betraying your younger self if you miss it. You're like, okay, 16-year-old me would be really pissed if I missed this. So,
That's really
but
crazy to hear, man. Thank you. I feel the same way when I because
dude,
I'm still like, how the fuck are we playing shows in 2024 and 2025? Like it just we never thought it was gonna happen again.
that's like that was like us playing with Dead to Fall. I remember we played with Dead to Fall a couple shows. I don't know if they're still actively playing shows, but we played a couple shows with them. And I remember all of them we were outside of Milwaukee Metal Fest and they're all like, yo, you sing for that band, right? And I was like, yeah. They're like, your band's awesome. And I'm like, stop. I was like, I listened to your band when I was 13 years old. And they're like, really? And I'm like, duh, who else would I listen to? It's like, your shirts were a fucking hot topic, dude. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, no, like, I don't think you understand. Like, it's awesome when I talk to people, not only like you, but like, I know I've brought him up a million times in this podcast, but it's like Drew from See You Next Tuesday. It's like anytime I talk to him, I'm like, dude, I don't think you understand how much you were there in my formative years of music, just listening to your band over and over again. And now you're messaging me randomly going, hey, Kyle, we're printing these shirts. Do you want one? And I'm like, I can't believe you're even asking me. I can't believe that like I can't even believe I've been on your record. I can't even believe this. I can't even believe that. So it's like I love music, and it's crazy to be even in the same room as all of you guys. Does that make sense?
I
Like
think so. Yeah,
it's
it's
crazy
weird
for
to
me
hear
to be.
hear you say that. Yes, but like, yeah, I mean, you clearly like this means a lot to you, and it's a huge part of your life. So like, it's just great to see. I see that in your posts too. Like everything you post is so like you're so grateful to be able to do anything, and like I'm just like this guy is such a sweetheart, and I would love to have
Oh,
him on.
thank you.
So I was like, I hope
Thank
you
you,
say
man.
yes. And then
Of
you're like, oh,
course.
I'll try not to geek out. I'm like, what? Shut up.
Yeah, no, dude, just very, very true. It's funny. It's like when I remember when Ian told me that Sean, he's like, "Oh yeah, I like hanging out with Sean," and I was like, "What?" I was like, don't bring me because I'm gonna endlessly just be geeking the fuck out. I'm gonna embarrass myself."
Yeah, the first thing you said, you were
But
like, "I love Fastball. I love Sean." I was like, "Oh, I had no
yeah,
idea
it was
that
like it's
you had
crazy.
talking to him. That's cool."
Dude, that new song rules too. The one that you guys did the music video for is fucking awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm
Yeah, it's
very proud
fucking
of that
awesome.
one. I
Yeah.
originally started as like a potential side project for Sean and I, but then he ended up rejoining the band, so we were like, okay, like this should just be a Fastball song then. And the rest of
Yeah,
the
dude.
guys, we put it together as a group. And yeah, so that started with some Robinson influence. Because I was like, I'm gonna see if I could still write something sort of like that. And then
Yeah, for sure.
it was still half Fastball at the same time already. I'm like, okay, this can definitely work. It's just the thing about it was so short. A Fastball song is usually fucking 6 minutes, but we were happy to do
Yeah.
shorter songs.
Yeah, it was funny how like we were talking about like your other band Robinson. It was like I remember when I met James from See You Next Tuesday and we were talking and he's like, "Yeah, we have a lot of mutual friends." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm from Columbus." And I'm like, "Oh, so you probably know my now uncle-in-law, you know Sean, you know all the Destroyer guys," which I think was his old band. I believe maybe that was his old band. But it was
Jimmy?
it's just so weird. Yeah. Yeah, Jimmy.
No, Jimmy. I don't think Jimmy was in Destroyer Destroyer ever because they're from Oklahoma
Oh.
City, right?
Okay, so he was in fucking what band was he in?
He's
There
been
was
in a
another
million
band.
bands. The
Oh, was
Heartland.
it the Heartland? That's who it was.
Yeah.
That's exactly who it was. I was like, I don't know why I thought it was Destroyer, but yeah, he was like, oh yeah, like the Heartland and blah blah. And I was like, what? And I think that was my like naivety of me being like a small child, not realizing that people could play in other bands. And I was like, what? You were in another band? He's like, yeah, that was my other band. I'm like, what? I'm like, could not believe it. Like, just could not comprehend that that's a thing. But yeah, I love those guys, and I love seeing those guys play shows as well, and just any of those guys like even just speaking with Jimmy and like having mutual friends, and then obviously knowing you guys and Sean and forget what I was where I was going with this. I guess I was just gonna reiterate that like when you're genuine and you're humble in this stuff, I think it does tend to take you farther because I've noticed that all the bands that are assholes don't usually stick around because everybody kind of like eventually is like, ah, yeah, we don't like those guys, and then they
Yeah.
just kind of fizzle out because everybody
That
realizes.
or they self implode because they probably fight too much. Like
Sure,
you,
sure,
it takes a special kind of like mix of people and just so many things have to come together to make a band successful. Like aside from are you good at your instrument? Do we want to play the same kind of music? Like it's like, do I want to spend,
I agree.
fucking a year in a van with you or a bus or, whatever? Like, are you
Oh
a
yeah,
good person? Like, can we
oh
laugh and
yeah.
not kill each other every day? Are you going to help load? Like, it's just the simple, like courteous things that like, that's like roommate shit that can like
Yeah,
destroy a
for
band
sure.
over time.
For sure. And it's like one of those things where it's also like fuck, how was I gonna say it? Yeah, it's like even as a local band, like I see kids that are in local bands and they like pull me aside and they're like, "Oh my God, I worship you." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm just a guy." And I'm like, I'm literally the same as you. I just happen to be in a band that got somewhere. And I literally just tell them, they're like, "How do you do this or how do you do that?" And I'm literally like, Let me tell you something, man. The fact that you're even playing a show means that you got 4 or 5 guys all on one page far enough to play a show.
Yeah.
You guys made 5 or 6 songs that are competent enough to be like, okay, we're gonna play a show. Like that's already a hurdle in itself, dude.
Yeah. If you could do that,
And
just do
like,
it many more times.
yeah, and it's crazy that like, you know, I know that I give a lot of these. I love that these older bands are getting their flowers and stuff, and I know that it's weird coming from like a peer being like, "Oh my God, you changed my life through music, and you're so important and whatever." But it's like it is you. It is it's possible for everybody to be able to do it. And I think that people are so hesitant because they're afraid of failure, which does make sense, sure. Like I know, but I don't think anybody likes to eat shit and kind of fall on your ass. But like
Yeah.
when
There's just no
something
other
kind
way
of works
around
out like
it.
this, it's like, yeah.
You have to eat shit. It might
And
take a
like,
couple bands and a couple, tours even, or, a couple shitty
oh
EPs,
yeah, dude.
but you just have to keep fucking
Oh yeah.
in anything.
That's what a lot of people were kind of like, how has your band lasted so long? Or how did you do this? Or how did you do that? And I'm like, all right, man, I'm gonna be real with you. What we did was we never stopped
Yeah.
because everybody that stopped around us, like all the bands that were our peers, they all broke up. So there's no one like you steal the audiences of these people that are broken up now. There's no, you know what I mean? Like, oh, the 10 bands that were in our genre that were when we started, they're all gone. So it's like logically you're gonna take all the fans, but it's like, you just never give up and you just persevere.
And you guys have been at it for over 10 years, right?
I think so. I think we're at like a year 11 now, which is fucking crazy to think because now I'm like, I started as a naive late teen and now I'm 29, almost 30 in 6 months or 5 months. So it's very strange to think. And I'm thankful and I'm grateful. And like I said, above anything, it's not really like money or like whatever. It's more so like the memories that I can. That's what I'm mostly thankful for and grateful for. Like I'm sitting here and obviously you can't see it, but like I see I had opened my Facebook to message my wife and I was like, "Hey, I'm doing this podcast right now." But it's like the first post I see right here is the guy that filmed the float show and it's like all the pictures of the float show and it's like I'm grateful that those guys trusted me with that. And that was music I grew up on. That was music that I'm not even gonna lie. I bit that guy's vocals. I bit that guy's like, cadence. So it's like to be trusted by somebody that, that was their baby when they were a fucking teen. And they're like, hey, I trust you to not flub this. It means more to me than, any amount of dollars that you could just give me at the end of it. Like, I don't know. It's just, I think a lot of people live life very fast and they live life, especially in a touring band. It's easy to kind of like live life very fast and kind of let it fly by you and whatever. But it's like, what's the word for it? It's like, if I would have never done this stuff, I would have never met all my peers and all my heroes, dude. I would have never met, you know, I, I would have never met Whitechapel. I never would have been in the same room as those guys. I would never be talking to you right now. I would never know See You Next Tuesday and Fox and James and fucking, Drew and all those guys. I wouldn't know them. I wouldn't know, any of the flow guys. I wouldn't know. It's just, it's crazy. Devil Wears Prada. I know all those guys. I know Imure, Acacia Strain, countless bands, Dead to Fall. It's like, I would have never known all those people if I wouldn't have just like done this. If I was too afraid to get out of my shell and make music, I would have never done it. And that's what's crazy, how it can just change your whole fucking life.
Yeah, you just got to have the
It's like, what if you
and keep going?
Yeah, like what if you never would have done this again? What if that was it? What if you guys were just like, we're just not gonna do it. Let's just not give it the energy. You would have never been on Furnace Fest and seen a bajillion people give a fuck about you guys. And you would have never redone this merch and experienced all these people buying these shirts and messaging your Instagram page or messaging you and going, "Hey man, you reprinted a shirt I had when I was 14 and it's a youth small and I still have it and you just let me get a piece of my past." Because it's a tangible piece. You know what I mean? It's a fucking this right here, even this is fucking 15 years old. You know what I mean? This is
Yeah.
something this came from the merch table 15 years ago, and I'm wearing it, and that's a piece of our past, and it's your younger you, and it's just I know maybe I sound like I'm just fucking rambling and I'm not making any sense, but it's just kind of like off rip. I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for you, and uh, I'm. It's crazy that this band has gone this far. It's crazy that like people have basically just been like, you know what? Yeah, I believe in this band, and then they give us a fucking chance, and then we're playing in fucking Canada in front of 2,000 people. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah, dude.
fucking weird, man. And
Well, if
yeah,
if the rest of the guys in the band are, as genuine as you are, and that just that alone will take you so far, like aside from the music being great, but like you said earlier, like all these bands who are assholes don't make it. They could have great music, but if people don't want to work with you and give you opportunities and help you out, like so that's a big part of it, I think, is like I just met you today. We never spoke before, and it's like already I'm like, I love this dude. He's cool as shit. He's genuine. He's easy to talk to, and that's not always easy, like some people you don't know what to expect when they hop on here. Is like, is it going to be like an interview, or can we just have a conversation and riff, which is like what I always prefer. But yeah,
yeah, I love just riffing. I'm somebody that I think if I can read the room and you're not a complete fucking you're not a dickhead, it's like, oh well, then we're just gonna riff and just fucking talk and it'll be cool.
yeah,
And I can definitely read the room when somebody's not very nice, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just not even give that guy my energy. And nine
right.
times out of 10, I will tell you if somebody is like that, eventually they come around and they end up apologizing to you, or everybody else kind of picks up the and reads the same energy and they go, yeah, that guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
So it's like either way, it doesn't work out for him. So but
Absolutely.
yeah, man.
I'd like,
Anything else you want to riff about, or are you pretty much you got your fill?
well, I'd like to hear about like a little more about your personal process for like writing songs and where your inspiration comes from for lyrics. How much time do you have left before you got to run?
Oh, dude, I have all day. I don't care. So, basically, when I write songs, I try to write songs that are like, obviously, there's gonna be the occasional songs where they're just kind of like, you're generic. I hate you. But other than that, I mean, I kind of try to take from like life experiences. So, like, a lot of the band was built on lyrically like betrayal and struggles and family issues and whatever, and that was kind of always like the inspiration lyrically for the band. It's always been a thing since we were even when we were kids and we didn't know how to write music. That was pretty much what it was.
Mhm.
But as the band's gotten older and also like we had a lineup change, like we've kind of played into it, and not only me but everybody writes lyrics in the band. So it's like I don't have an infinite pool of bad experiences in my life to kind of draw from, and I'm a pretty optimistic and nice guy. So I feel like if more bad shit happened to me, it would be kind of hard. I'd feel like I'd probably be a miserable, insufferable asshole. But so we kind of all like have life experience stuff that we put into our music. But I write a lot about like family issues that are kind of like the extended family. I write a lot about well, yeah, just like betrayal, stuff like that. But that's what I usually write on. Everybody else kind of writes on like things with like tragedy and loss. Like that's another theme of the lyrics. So I try to basically write. I try to write. What's the way to put it? I guess not story, but you kind of try to write from the heart, I guess, and that's pretty much what we do, for the most part. I mean, unless they're just like, "Hey, can we write a song that's like a I hate you song?" And I can do that easy. That's easy to just riff right off the fucking dome. But
Yeah.
it's harder when you're like talking about like real things that have happened. That's a little bit harder to draw from because you kind of have to be very real and personal about it. But when it's just like, I hate you, I'm going to stomp on your head and your eyeballs are going to pop out and you're going to piss your pants, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
But, uh, but I mean, there's that. And then as far as like the cadence goes, I can riff a lot of the cadence by myself, yes. But what's cool about having somebody that's a producer in your band is that he can be like, no, you sound like a fucking idiot. Do it like this. So like there's that. but also like we are recording in a week. We record with Putney up north, so we're gonna
Nice.
go up north and do that and write a full length. Um, but that's mostly gonna be, Putney is very like he's also easy to work with, at least with me, where he's just I belt out a line of lyrics and he goes, "Yeah, that's pretty good," and I go, "You don't want me to do it over again?" He goes, "No." I'm like, whoa, okay, which is apparently very rare because I know people that have recorded with Putney and they're like, "Oh, he made me do it 50 fucking times." But when we recorded last time with him, I just would belt out something and I'd be like, "Is that good?" And he's like, "Yep." I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'm I guess I'm good then." But so that's pretty much where I go from as far as like cadence, like you were saying, where do you get the inspiration vocally? One big one was do you remember which is as another funny instance is when we were recording with Will, he said I sounded just like this guy. And I remember we did a vocal track and then he cut it and he goes, "Damn, sounding like so and so." And I literally go, "Everybody can suck my balls," because that just came straight from the guy that said it. Do you remember Deadwater Drowning? Do you remember that band?
Oh fuck yeah, I love them.
And what was another band? Premonitions of War, I think was the band.
Yeah, same guy, Nate, right?
Yep, Nate Johnson. So he was also in
Yeah.
Fit for an Autopsy. Will Putney is Fit for an Autopsy, and we're recording and I belted out a line, and he goes, "Sounds like Nate Johnson, man." And I said, "All right, everybody can suck my balls." So, which is awesome because I think that that's another guy that I kind of bit early on as I wanted to sound like that guy because he's awesome. And for those listening, if you've never listened to his bands, they're fucking awesome. He sang for Fibrin Autopsy, Deadwater Drowning, Premonitions of War, Through the Eyes of the Dead, I think, as well.
Yeah, yeah, he's been with a lot of bands.
His vocals were awesome. He's kind of fell off the face of the planet, but his vocals were awesome. Another obvious
Love
one.
Deadwater Drowning so much. They were one of the big bands where like I when I was in high school, the new metal shit was the thing. So when I was coming out of that, learning about like the Red Chord and Deadwater,
Oh my
and
god, dude!
Converge, and all these bands, like Deadwater was a big one. I remember having that burnt to a disc in my car, putting that CD in and just wearing it the fuck out. I think I still have,
Mhm.
but like I wish they had done more. They were so good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember. I had to take a drink and then also formulate my next sentence. I remember Dylan, my friend Dylan on the bus, shout out Dylan, showed me the Fit for an Autopsy demo. And that was the only thing they had out at the time. And I remember I heard the guy's vocals and I was like, whoa, this guy's voice is ridiculous. And then I found out that that was the same singer from Premonitions of War and Deadwater Drowning and Through the Eyes of the Dead. But I remember listening to that Fit for an Autopsy demo and I was like, whoa. And that was the guy I tried to copy. And then early I Declare War, John Huber. I was like, this guy's voice is ridiculous. That's pre Jamie. So that was Amidst the Bloodshed. It was like that record where it's like the logo is on like a white background and it's splattered with gore and it's like the grossest like the whole like it's like a white background with like just blood everywhere. And I remember seeing that album cover for the first time and I was like, all right, this is like the most ridiculous vocals. I don't know if you've ever heard that EP, but that guy's voice is like dude, it's like the first I Declare War record and his voice is so like it literally sounds like a cinder block being pushed against like the road outside. Like his voice is ridiculous. And I remember hearing that guy's voice and I was like, there's no way anybody could replicate that. And then, I do gutturals now and people are like, oh, it sounds like that guy. And I'm like, whoa. But then I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I bit him when I was like 16 years old. That's all I wanted to sound like. But that guy's also like legendary at vocals. I feel like the guy was really awesome. Um, and then forget who else kind of influenced me. Definitely Float. Definitely Ron. I thought Ron's vocals were pissed. I'm trying to think of what else did I kind of riff way back then. I mean, I really liked your band and See You Next Tuesday and bands like that, but I never was able to do the crazy guy vocals.
The highs.
Like that I could never do them. They hurt my voice and I was like, like I think I made the decision early on. I was like, I'm not doing that because it like hurt my voice and I was like, not gonna happen.
I don't know how to do it at all. I can like shout. I could never do a low thing, but like Sean's highs are like my favorite, and I feel so lucky to have been in a band with him. Like
Yeah, oh
he's
yeah, he's
fucking good
awesome.
at it. Yeah.
He's got the crazy maniac guy vocals. That's like Fox from See You Next Tuesday has like the crazy guy vocals, like they hurt
Yeah,
your ears.
he's
You're like,
so good
oh
at it too.
yeah, it's crazy. And it's crazy that like when I saw them play, it's like they didn't even skip a beat and they were better. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Like, they were better. I was like, oh my God, how did this band get better? That's insane. I'm like, and I was watching them and Drew goes, so what do you think? Do you think it was awesome? And I was like, dude, did you guys practice? Of course I think it's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
you know? So it was cool. But yeah, I never was able to do that. And then I liked, of course, everybody's gonna always say Whitechapel. Guy's amazing. Phil Bozeman. That was another big moment in my life we had brought up earlier. You were like, yeah, the Whitechapel tour, like how does that feel? And the whole like 16 years ago I was wearing a Whitechapel shirt. Dude, like we did some shows in Europe this past year, and we did the festivals in Europe, and then in between festival days we did club shows. So we had five club shows with Chapel. And
Wow.
I remember I had another one of those moments, like those I forget what you would call it. I guess you not an epiphany, but it was like it's like when you kind of like are like, whoa, this is really happening. Like, this is a whoa moment. And I remember we were in the green room, and it was like a community green room. And Alex Wade had messaged me on Instagram like months prior, and he just didn't say anything. All he said was, "Your band's awesome." That was it. And I was like, whoa, guys. I remember in our Facebook chat, I popped up the Facebook chat and I was like, frantically, I was like, guys, what? The guitar player at Whitechapel just said our band's fucking awesome. And they were like, whoa. And I remember that had happened. And then that was it. And I didn't hear anything for months. And then I remember we did those Whitechapel club shows later. And he came up to me and he was like, hey, you're Kyle, right? And I was like, yeah. And it's like, yeah, I messaged you on Instagram. I was like, I know. I remember. I freaked out. And so he was cool. We had a cool conversation, and then it was done. And then my moment of holy shit, I might have actually done something in my life, which was crazy. Was we're sitting there, and I'm eating like a fucking turkey. It's like, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Europe. Did From a Second Story Window ever do Europe?
Yeah, we went twice.
Okay, so the catering there, as you know, is like bread and meats. So I remember I was eating like a piece of bread with like fucking cheese and like a slice of like I didn't fucking know what it was. It was like a fucking deli cut meat or something
Sounds
with like
right. Yeah.
mustard on it. And I was sitting on the couch like scrolling on like my phone doing whatever. And I remember I'm like sitting there, and fucking Phil walks up, comes up to me and goes, "Hey, do you know where the Whitechapel room is?" And I was like, "I think it's there." And he goes, "What about catering?" And I go, "It's right there." And he goes, "Okay, see you later." And then he turns around and walks away. And I go, "Oh my God, that was the fucking guy right there. That was the guy. Holy shit." And then I did my usual try not to fangirl, but I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try and talk to you and try not to have my eyeballs pop out of my head. And I talked to him for a bit, and we just talked about like old bands, and he was like, "Oh, that's sick, blah blah, blah." He's like, "That's cool, you know those bands." I was like, "Yeah." And then whatever. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah. All good.
I put my phone on fucking do not disturb, and my dad's calling me, and I'm like, "What the hell? How is?" He just circumvented the security measures I put on. So anyway, so I'm sitting there, and yeah, so we play the show and everything goes fine and whatever. And uh I shower and everything, and Phil walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, you want to hear the new Whitechapel?" And I was like, yeah. You sure?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'll show you the whole fucking record." I was like, "Oh my God, okay." So we sat upstairs and he just showed me the whole Whitechapel record like a year before it was even announced. And then I'm like, all right, I did something right in my life somewhere where this is happening. What the fuck? And now we're touring with fucking Whitechapel. But that was just like such a weird moment for me because I'm like, I remember listening to that band so young. But that was another guy that I completely was like, I want to be this guy, or I want to you know, do vocals like this guy, even an ounce like this guy. And then like, come to find out, like, I talked to their guitar tech. I forget his name. I think it's Eric, but he's like, you know, 2 days later, I see him at a show, and we play another club show at the chapel, and he goes, "Dude, you did it." And I go, did what? And he goes, "You got him to talk." I was like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Yeah, that guy doesn't talk to anybody. That guy doesn't go out of his comfort zone unless he fucks with you." And I was like, "Uh," I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, you're his friend now. He wants to be your friend." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And like, meanwhile, I'm like thinking about that picture from 2009, and I'm like, "Dude, you did it." I don't know what the fuck you did, but you did it. It's crazy. But yeah, like,
Dude.
so, and then like, I come to find out, he's like, "Oh yeah, I've brought your band up on podcasts before." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I thought your band was awesome for like years. We just never crossed paths." And I was like,
Wow.
"Okay, what the fuck, dude?" Same with like, dude, any of these people, like you or like any of these other people, I'm surprised you guys even know who the fuck I am. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I sound surprised I am. But like, then again, maybe I'm the one that's naive to it. But fuck, man, like, it's crazy. Like, I just always think about it. It's so fucking weird, man. I know I've said this is weird and this is crazy about 500 times this whole podcast, but it's just like, it's truly how I feel. It's not just like some shit I pulled out of my ass and I'm like, "Oh, maybe,"
No, for sure.
it's
I
like a
can tell,
half-ass
man.
response.
No,
It's like it's not a half-ass response. But yeah, no, like yeah, I definitely bit a lot of people. The cadences, I would say that yes, it's a little bit of me. Like the mosh calls are definitely me. The live energy that I put in is definitely me, but I definitely give the cadence a lot to Chris and a lot to Will for just being able to like kind of joystick me in a certain way to where when we're recording, they're like, "Okay, this is how this probably should be said." But also, there's been times where Chris will go, "Hey, this is how this should be said," and then he goes, "You know what? Actually, just riff it off the top of your head. Off the top of your head. We'll see how it goes." And then I just kind of skid out a vocal pattern, and he goes, "Yeah, that sounds great. Let's just keep it like that." So it's like, I think I think somewhere along the way in the past 11 years, I've become an actual musician.
Oh yeah.
I've like somehow, like I tell my dad this all the time. I go, "Somehow I've infiltrated this group, this society of musicians, and I've convinced everybody that I'm a professional." I think that's what happened, is that I just convinced everybody that I'm somehow awesome and no one's had any suspect. Like, they don't have any suspicion. We're like, "Hey, that guy's not supposed to be here."
Dude, that's just imposter syndrome. Everybody has that. Like, even the most talented,
Yeah.
the best musicians or in anything in life. Like, I've always felt that way. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I just pick up a guitar and
Dude,
I just make noise. Like,
you guys
let's go.
put out like legendary albums. You know that, right? Do you
Wasn't
ever
on
think
the
about that?
Yeah, I wasn't on the first two Fastwell ones, if that's what you're referring to. But yeah, uh, like
Sure, but you play those fucking songs and you are writing and playing in a legendary band, essentially.
yeah, I mean, I I grew up with them. I was there while they were writing it. I've always felt like a part of the whole thing because like Robinson and From a Second Story Window, we were best friends. We swapped members. We were from the same town, so like we were in and around each other's practices. Like it was all organically like just we take their drummer, and then at one point Joe wanted to play bass in Robinson. He didn't end up doing that too, and it's like then I ended up in Faswa, and it was like okay, it just felt perfect. It felt right. It was like family. So I've always felt
Yeah.
like a part of it, always going to see their shows when they were a new metal band called Aphasia, and they sounded like fucking Corn and Limp Bizkit. So it's just,
Whoa, that's crazy. It's just, I think it's just crazy. Like you said, it's like the imposter syndrome shit. Like another one that I did. And I don't ever like to talk about myself too much. I don't ever want to come off as like a pompous asshole or anything like
oh,
that.
that's what you're
Because
here to do.
definitely,
I want to hear it.
you're funny. You're like, "No, by all means do it." No, so there was one that I totally didn't see coming was we did a tour with Grin, and this was another one that was just completely out of body experience. Was I did a We did a tour with Fetus, which in itself is a fucking ridiculous feat. We did a tour with Dying Fetus, Chelsea Grin, and then a couple of our friends, Undeath and Frozen Soul. And before the tour starts, I get a call from Speed and Grin, and he goes, "Hey, um, we just want to let you know we love you, buddy." And I was like, "Okay, well, where are we going with this?" And he goes, "So Tom can't get into Canada for whatever reason, and we are not 100% on it, but if he cannot make it into Canada, we're gonna need somebody singing for the band."
Ah,
And so I went, "Okay, are you suggesting me singing for the band?" And they said yes. So I said, "Okay, well, I know half the songs from high school, but let's see what we can do." So I get sent the lyrics for this. I get sent the Chelsea Grin set list, and time comes, we tour, and then we get to a couple days before Canada, and 3 or 4 days before we enter the first show in Canada, we sound check. Grin sound checks, and they have about time for two songs. So each day we sound check with 2 songs, and that's our practice together.
shit. Wow.
So I had weeks listening to it in my ears, and then I had a single one playthrough of each song 3 days before we played. And then I wore their in-ear rigs and I used their mics. And yeah, so we ripped, I believe Bodysnatcher would play right before Chelsea Grin every night. We would play 8 songs. I would wipe off with the towel, drink 5 water bottles, and then immediately go upstairs and we would walk out. We would walk out to the sample. We would be in front of a 30x30 Chelsea Grin banner, and I would put up my hand. I go, "How's everybody feeling? We're Chelsea fucking Grin," and we would go straight into My Damnation and play 10 Chelsea Grin songs.
Holy shit, dude. How did you do that?
By the skin of my teeth and being extremely nerve wracking. Somehow I don't have gray hairs, but
Dude,
yeah, I remember I did those, and that was scary.
do you have like how do you keep your voice from blowing out on tour night after night? Do you have like a routine you do or
Okay, so here's the thing. I totally do not do. I
I
just
know some people have there's like those like moisturizer things they're breathing in, and other people are like, I just smoke cigarettes and drink beer, and like other people are like, I don't know, I just do it. So
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in the I just do it camp. So
yeah.
I have always kind of been like that. I've done the vocal warm up thing, but I've never I always fall off of it. But I'm always usually pretty good. Like my voice will get calloused and I'm pretty good for like a whole tour. The only time my voice will get fucked up is if I get sick. And I think that's with anybody
Yeah.
because your voice your body is essentially telling you, hey, you need to stop screaming for 40 minutes, and then you kind of force it to. Obviously you're going to be like, okay, this fucking sucks, this hurts, and my voice hurts. But other than that, I usually do I don't usually do really anything, and I'm usually fine. But not to say that I would tell anybody that's listening to this podcast fucking do that, because it's a little bit of an it's a little bit of an asinine thing to do. But I
Right.
do I I I I I get by doing that. But
You're just built different.
um he's the kid. They're trying to keep the kid down and they just can't. But I did those shows and those were very hard. That was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
How
Was
many
play
nights in a
for
row?
35 minutes. I did 3 in a row and then we came back into the States and then we did one by itself.
Okay. Yeah,
So
if
I
you
think I
had to
did
do that for
4
like two
shows.
weeks, you'd probably be fucked. That would be crazy.
Oh yeah. Well, I think either that or I would just become unkillable.
Or that, yeah.
Yeah.
You reach your
I
final
think what
form.
happened though, yeah, I would just be the best ever. But that's not what happened. But I was able to pull it off and not blow my voice out. So I did that. Uh and then I would wash off, drink water, and then I would play the Grin songs. But that was another moment where it was kind of like, oh my God, how the fuck did I get here? How did I
Yeah.
get here? I don't know how this happened. And that was a very big case of the imposter thing. I get the imposter thing quite frequently, actually. Even my wife, it's like my wife will come out and she sees us, and I see her on the side, and she's enjoying it and whatever. And I'm like, how did I get to this point where, I'm still feeling like this isn't me? It's weird, man. So weird. I don't know what it is. It's such a phenomenon.
You guys are crushing it, so I think you're gonna keep having a lot more of those experiences.
Yeah, I think the Whitechapel one is definitely very like jarring. Same with the Acacia Strain. That was one that's the whole reason why I wanted to play really heavy music was like Acacia Strain and Immure. And it's like we did the Immure tour, and that was so jarring too because I was like, oh my God, this is they wrote Goodbye to the Gallows, which was like the record that like I was like, oh my God, this is fucking ridiculous. There's not a band that can write a heavy metalcore record like this. And then like, of course, Acacia Strain Continent and Dead Walk and all that stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like there's no these bands are just legendary. And now it's just like we've done tours with them and we're about to do the Acacia Strain, and that's just fucking crazy to me. There's like Mike Recon. Like I met Mike. Mike Mulholland he plays in the Acacia Strain now, but he was in Immure for like 10 years, and he used to play in Recon, and that was one of my favorite bands ever of all time. And he's just like, yeah, Recon, we might do more shows. And I'm just like, oh my God. And he's just like, yeah, you're awesome. And I'm like, dude, I can't believe that because it's like once again, it's stuff that so heavily inspired my childhood, and it's thankful to be here.
That's awesome, dude. I was gonna say Goodbye to the Gallows. I remember when that came out. I think we were in Europe at the time, and we were told, "Oh, you're gonna be touring with Immure when we come back." So like they were touring.
Oh my God.
I think, and they were opening for us at the time. Well, no, not opening the tour, but like they were direct support to us. So like that's like mind blowing to think about. And
Dude, that's so cool. The life you've lived is probably so crazy.
yeah, watching it, like, because if you look at back some of our tour passes, they just look like the most insane lineups. Like if you were to see it today, and like think about who you're around watching everybody come up, and then who is stuck with it and blown up, immensely since then and are still going. So like kudos to everybody who didn't give up, because it was a grind back then. Before, I feel like heavy music got a lot more popular, or at least it was more underground at the time. And I always say this, but I felt like we were a little bit too early. And then, yeah, but definitely not.
I think you
got a
guys
decision to stop, but
I think you guys influenced a lot more than you think you did, because I think like you said, you kind of like disconnected from the scene for a long time. But I think you guys influenced countless people, and you will only know that when you speak to them in a setting where you're kind of in the same room with all these bands, and they're like, "Oh my God, you play in this band. Oh my God, you play in this band." You know what I mean? You guys influenced so many people. Like even our drummer Chris, somebody that I immensely respect. He was in a band that I fucking loved. He was in a couple other bands before King Conquer that were like kind of crazy guy bands. And I remember I think he spoke to Sean, or he spoke to Sean through me, like vicariously. And he was like, hey, he was like, you're the reason why I wanted to play fast. Your whole band. It's the whole reason why. So it's like, dude, like you got to think it's like, you know, we roll with the punches, of course, and we kind of like you were saying very early on in the episode, it's like hindsight is 2020, but it's like um when you build that foundation, it's always going to be there, and the music is always going to be there, and music is an eternal thing unless the internet, gets brought down and Skynet brings killing machine terminators, and we're fucking forced to play uh grind metalcore for the rest of your life, and I'm forced to play fucking breakdown fat guy music and for the machine, and it's never gonna let me stop. But I mean, aside from that, I mean, I think music is pretty eternal. Sorry, my dad keeps calling me. I'm gonna message him on Facebook and be like, "Hey, god damn it, stop calling me." No, I'm not gonna be mean. So I think like I said, I think even 15 to 20 years from now, when we're old fucking decrepit men, or we're just all completely have had it with, music, and we've completely thrown that out the window. That eternal, the factor that music is eternal is always going to be there. And there's going to be 19-year-old kids in 20 years going, "Oh my God, I have a From a Second Story Window shirt from 40 years ago."
I never thought that
That's
far
what's
ahead.
gonna happen,
That,
dude.
yeah, that's gonna be crazy.
They're not gonna be
Like
crazy. They're gonna be like, "Oh my God."
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They're gonna wheel you out like fucking like Ozzy Osbourne, and they're gonna be like, "Yeah, this was a band from 2005," and they're gonna be like, "Oh my God, I'm wearing the Trip Pants 2.0, and I've got a giant septum ring, even though it's 2075." You know, like, "Oh my God, you were in that band?" You're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, that was my band." But like, it's crazy to think that we're still taking influence from bands from way back then and bands from even before that. It's crazy,
Yeah.
So I think the only thing that's going to happen is the cycle is going to continue to happen, and like you said, music is become so much more accessible, and things with like Furnace Fest and when we were young and festivals like that and Warp Tour making a comeback, I think it's only a good thing because you're being able to be put in front of eyes with, these old bands. And my big goal, and me and Chris have said this before, is that if we get bigger, which we're now bigger than a lot of the bands we grew up on, is like we want to be able to be like, all right, well, we're gonna take out this band and take out this band just because fuck you. That's why we like this band. You know what I mean? Like,
That's a great spot to
don't
be in,
care
yeah.
about the numbers. Just fuck you. We like this band. We're taking them.
I think you guys
So
will
it's
definitely
like,
be there
that's
for
where I
sure.
hope to be at. Yeah,
You will.
trying to.
Absolutely. What
So,
I forgot to ask you, where did Body Snatcher name come from?
oh, dude, easy. So that one was, we were trying to come up with band names of like serial killers and uh, like murderers. And I think what ended up happening was, uh, when we, what was I gonna say? Okay, so when we were going through names and stuff, there was band names that were already taken, and one that we were like, "God damn it! I wish that this band wasn't a band, but they were kind of like one of those band names you don't touch because they were kind of influential." Was Ed Gein.
Oh yeah.
So we were like, we can't take that name, but we were like, okay, well, what are some nicknames that Ed Gein went by? And one of the nicknames that Ed Gein went by was the Body Snatcher because he would dig up graves and he would make bodies, like he would make clothing and furniture out of the bodies and like the
Right.
body parts. So we were like,
That's
oh, well,
cool.
maybe we'll use Body Snatcher. And we were like, okay. And then we kind of just all like, I remember we were looking for like nicknames of murderers. We were gonna do Night Stalker. We almost did fuck, what did we do? We almost did Dahmer. That's what we almost went with. We almost went with that. And then we were just kind of thinking, and we were like, okay, well, let's just all think. And then randomly at the time, the bass player in the band went Body Snatcher. And we were all like, oh, yeah, it's a pretty good name. All right, yeah, let's run with it. And then we ran with it, not thinking about how serious it would become. Now we're 11 years later and we still have the name.
Yeah, it's a great name. I like it out of all those the best. There's like when you go that route of like serial killer kind of scary horror stuff, you can go too cheesy and then there's like the nice middle ground. I think Body Snatcher is cool. It also just sounds hard. Like it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny. We did people I remember people for years have been like, is it because of the movie? And I was like, no, it's not from the movie, but I've seen the movie, but no, that's not what it was. But
Yeah.
people thought it was like a reference to like extraterrestrial shit. And I was like, no, it's supposed to be Ed Gein.
No, that's really cool. I never knew you had that nickname. That now I like it even more. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. We just did let me see if I can find it. We just did the anniversary for the EP. We just did the anniversary, and when we did the CD drop, like we did CDs, we did records, and we did like a small line of like the throwback t-shirts from when we were a local band, and one of them is the Gacy. It's the John Gacy basement, like the crawl space he had under his house.
Oh, that's
And I remember we did that because when we were a local band, we were like, okay, we have to do one that's like a serial killer. So we
yeah.
did that. And it's so funny because now years later, before we did this, there was kids that would message me and they're like, "Do you have a Gacy shirt?" And I was like, "No, we only did 50 of those and we only did it in our hometown." So then when we re-put it out, everybody was like, "Oh my God, they fucking did it. They did the Gacy shirt again." So that was a little bit of cool history for that. But yeah, we kind of did that, and it's been cool. The response was really cool. Like we did the first EP remixed and remastered by Chris, and it's like, everybody was like, I can't believe that these songs sound like this.
Yeah, I listened to it earlier
It's
today. It
crazy.
sounds great. I didn't hear the original version, but it sounds awesome.
Oh yeah, the original one sounded like poop.
Yeah.
It
As your first EP
was
usually does.
recorded. Yeah, it was recorded in a way that, like, when we were recording it, the guy that was handling it kind of didn't really put uh he didn't put his 100% in it, and I
Yeah.
think that's what happened. Is that it kind of was half-assed, and we never kind of really got our it never got its it never got its flowers properly, I feel like. So when we redid it, uh Chris was like, I was kind of against it for a very long time, and then Chris, not even Chris, it was more so like Kyle Shope from Float plays in the band now, and he goes, "Why don't you guys remix and remaster that EP?" And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, "Well, what's it gonna hurt?" And I was like, I don't know. And I don't know if we would have the stems or anything like that. And Chris, goes, "Well, when I split with the guy that I was recording with, when I was running that recording studio, I took one of the hard drives and it has that EP on it."
Oh,
And so that it kind of persuaded me a little bit more, and I warmed up to the idea. And he goes, "Well, I can take those files and I can change them." So I was warmed up to it. And then he was like, "Let me just do a test. I'll do a test mix. And, if you don't like it, then we'll just call it. But if you let me test mix it, then we'll see how it goes." So we test mixed it, and he reamped all the guitars. He replaced the drum samples, and then the vocals. I hated the vocals on it. They sounded like they were all recorded with a French fry. And somehow he was able to fix the levels and clean the vocals up to where they don't sound like I recorded it with a shoestring. So it's
right.
awesome. And then the guitars are all reamped, everything's all beefed up. And then they showed me it at a practice. This was like a year or two ago. They showed me in a practice. Chris was like, "Hey, I want to show you something." And I was like, "Okay." And he pulled me into his car and he put a song on. And I went, "Oh my God, this doesn't sound like the same band." And he's like, "Yep, I was able to do it." So then we got in contact with Silverback Gorilla, which they do vinyl. They do awesome vinyl. And we were able to make a deal, and those guys were really accommodating and awesome. And they revamped the artwork. They basically redid everything, and they were able to get vinyl. And now here we are a week later, and it's out again. And I feel like it got its proper flowers, and it was cool because some of the guys that were in the band at the time, I hadn't spoken to them in 10 years, and I wasn't sure how they were going to react. I thought they were either going to be I thought they were either going to be pissed the fuck off, or B, they were going to be like, "Yo, this is awesome." And luckily it was B. They messaged me and they were like, "Dude, this is amazing." And I was like, "Yeah." And, one of them even was like, "Could I maybe get a vinyl?" And I was like, "Dude, I already set it up to where we're going to get 10 handmade custom ones. And of course you can have one. I got one made for you. It's okay." So I'm going to
That's
be
awesome.
able to do that and give back to those guys. And it was just really cool. So I'm really excited, and I'm excited for the future of it. I'm excited to see these tours, and I'm excited to hopefully continue growing and hopefully meet some more of my heroes like yourself, who we've just talked for 2 hours. So thank you.
Dude, thank you very much. And congratulations on all of that. I mean, You guys
Thank
have
you,
been a
man.
success. You've been at it for 10 years. You know, you're crushing it. I listened to all of your records today. I can hear the progression and how you're getting better. And I think you're going to go really far, and you will be at that level where you can take out whoever the fuck you want. So keep it up, dude.
Trying to, man. I hope that it gets to that point, and I hope that people continue to give it a chance, and I hope that it continues to live and get bigger, and hopefully we can do more festivals where I can go see from a second story window, and I can go see on Broken Wings, and I can see all these bands that I grew up on, and I can, play with my heroes and my peers. It'd be cool.
Yeah. Absolutely, dude. Well, one last thing. I have an official Riff Tacos playlist. I ask every guest to contribute one song. So it could be any song, anything you want, any genre, something that means something to you. But I think it'll be a cool collection to have over the years after all the episodes. So anything you like. If you want to tell me later, that's cool too. But I'd like to see if
I'll tell you right fucking now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it in honor of my friend Ron Gilbert. Rest in peace. And I'm gonna do it for my buddies in Float Face Down. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna suggest Without Crutches by the band Float Face Down.
Without Crutches. Got it. I'll add that as soon as we get off here. All right, dude. Well,
it's a very heavy song.
I'm stoked to hear it. I don't know if I've heard that one. I knew their name, but I never listened to them a lot. So one of those bands that kind of slipped by.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like a very shreddy band, but they also have like the super fat guy heavy breakdown. So they have like a good mix of like the Through the Eyes of the Dead / like red chord shred aspects, and then they just have like super fat guy breakdowns.
Fuck yeah.
It's amazing.
Fat guy breakdowns.
Same.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much for doing this again. Everyone, thank you for listening. If you're enjoying the podcast, please remember to subscribe, hit the follow button on Spotify or Apple. Please leave a rating. That would mean a lot to me, and it helps me keep bringing on cool guests like Kyle here. And thank you again for listening. We'll see you on the next one.
Dude core.